I always express how I feel, and in turn, I think that helps her, tell me how she feels, and we talk it out. It's nothing that we can't discuss, like nothing, nothing. I thought she was cheating on me, like.
To episode 2 of After Love, the official Black Love After Show. The drinks are flowing, at least for me. And I'm super excited to talk to our newlyweds who are just seeing this for the first time. And I just want to say that this is the 4th season. And our first criteria was that couples had to be together at least 8 years, right? No matter how long they had married, they had to be together at least 8 years so they could draw on experiences and really share. And everybody was like, when are you gonna do newlyweds? We need to see newlyweds. So this is the first time that we did it. And I'm really excited about it. And I love that, obviously newlyweds can come from any background or any time together. And you guys have known each other since high school.
Yes. Yeah.
And you guys met post-college, but via college.
Right.
So I'm just thrilled to be sharing, just talking with you guys and learning what the first year or 3 has been like.
Yeah.
So first off, what did you think of seeing yourselves share those early moments? Especially y'all, which y'all 2 months when we did that interview.
I know, we still had Similac behind our ears, right, with everything. Honestly, because of, it feels like so much of the world has changed since you all came to our living room that I did not recall all the things that we talked about or that we said. So watching it back, I was like, oh, we look all in love.
Yeah, I was relieved. I was like, oh, how are we gonna look?
Yeah, I didn't know either, but it was, I thought, a very accurate representation of our relationship, how we relate, everything. So I wasn't dissatisfied with any of it.
Now, when I saw it, the first thought that came to my mind was, my wife looks good. She looks good, so she ain't gonna complain about that. But then, as we watch, it made it seem as though maybe we argued too much. So I was took it back by that, but that's not the case with us. We argue over little things, and it made it seem we might be arguing over something bigger than what it is. We argue over stuff like the trash or bottles being left, or her personal favorite is me leaving clothes that I just washed all over the ground.
Wait, clothes that you just washed where?
See, now you have a problem with it.
Trying to understand.
So I washed it, and by my bed it's clean. I don't put shoes or nothing over there, so sometimes I just put it there, and I'll take care of it when I take care of it.
So you don't like the fold?
Away.
Yeah, no. So when I was a kid, I folded a lot, and I hated that part of doing laundry. So now I'm an adult, I make the rules. I ain't folding as much.
I'll give your wife a tip. So when we have clean clothes, I just dump them all on the bed. So we have to fold them up before we get into bed because Jamel doesn't like to fold.
I don't either. I don't put them on the floor, but I put them on.
See, what I would have done if I see it on the bed, it's time to go to bed now. Slide it up.
I try to get away with
and
that.
And it's just my clothes. So
I was gonna say, is it just yourself?
Oh, okay, it's not both your clothes.
But it's y'all's room.
Right, exactly.
That's true.
And here's the thing, no judgment. At the end of the day, we all have our things. We all have our quirks. We all have our marital lessons, right? There's our personal, individual things, and then there's okay, how are we vibing together? Yeah. And you guys had been together forever.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you also had never lived together before.
Never.
Right. So
and
that was a change.
Yeah, that was kind of our rule where we wouldn't live together until we were married because we just felt, religiously we felt that wasn't right. And I feel as though if you love someone, regardless of any flaws or anything they have, we'll work through it. And we have.
Yeah. So how have you all, look, we interviewed you guys at 2 months, and you guys are almost, you're 3 years.
Yes.
And I guess it was earlier this year.
Yeah.
So what have you learned? What has changed? You're in the newlywed phase, but what are you really learning about marriage and about yourself right now?
It's a lot though. Not in a bad way. I didn't mean it to come out like that. No, it's a lot that I think I've learned. I think honestly, marriage has helped me become the best version of myself. That's not to say I'm perfect, because he'll be like, hold on, best version? Is that all you got? But no, it's not to say that I'm perfect, but I think when you are in a marriage, the whole goal is to be committed to something that's bigger than you. And our marriage is bigger than me individually. It's bigger than us in many ways. So being committed to that and understanding what that commitment meant is really, honestly, it has made me just a lot more mature. I mean, granted, we're sort of different, two sides of a different coin. It's like you got OGs in the marriage. Right, we got 10 months under our belt. But we both got married later in life. You know, I'm in my mid-40s now. And so, you know, when I met this young spry fox, his late 30s. So it's coming at a different stage, the perfect stage in our life. But for as much as I felt like I was mature and grown up and grown, being a, you know, independent woman and everything, once you learn how to coexist with somebody else, it just takes that maturity, I think, to a new level. You know, as married people always say, is that, you know, if you argue, you disagree. And I think you even said this, is like, you have to work it out, right? So that makes you approach arguing and disagreements much differently than when you can tell somebody you can get on somewhere, right? So I learned a lot. Yeah. A lot of good things.
And they said something very important in the episode where they said, and people may not think it's important, but you change your emergency contact. I'll tell you why. 'Cause that's so important. Now you really know someone has your back through it all. Yeah. And you have to have their back through it all. So that's so important. We've learned that through the pandemic and everything, because we've become closer together. We've seen each other a lot more now. And it's everything I do is like, I'm happy she's here to make me grow as a stronger person and make me be better. So.
Yeah, and we are each other's responsibility. So like during the pandemic, it was like, oh shoot, like if something really happens to him, I have to really step in and take care of him, and then same for him, for me. So that was a lot of like anxiety I felt.
And we are also isolated from others.
Yeah.
And we had that conversation about if one of us did contract COVID-19, will we both just say, all right, we're not gonna quarantine from each other, we'll both just have it.
Right.
And we agreed that if it happened to one of us, we were in it together.
Yeah, but something good that you said when we were talking about how to adjust to kind of this new world was when we were talking, you were like, you know, everything you do impacts me too. So it's like, I have to be safe because I can't bring this home
I had to kind of check her because she was kind of loose. I'm like,
I
you get it, I get it. So
I wasn't loose. See, what had happened was I kind of slid in and got that hair appointment like
early on.
Yes, I got it in there, and he was like, "You sure you want to go?" I was like, "You got it. I'm sure it's all good." I was happy that I did, but after that, you know, he was just like, "Look, what you do impacts me," and you know, that's the beautiful thing about marriage is that it forces me, especially being, you know, growing up as an only child. I mean, he did too, so you just as selfish as I am sometimes. No, but you know, being kind of isolated as a single woman, you're used to focusing, or you're used to operating as a single operating machine, like just you, and that's it. That's all you think about. This has forced me to broaden and just be like, oh, I have somebody else I need to consider, and that's a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And on staying on topic of the COVID-19, she's very like pessimistic, and I'm so optimistic on everything. So I'm like taking advantage of moments where, they open, let's go. I'm going to the gym. And she's like,
optimistic about your health?
But I'm thinking it's not that, and part of me, I'm looking at numbers like, oh, it's not that bad. I can go to the gym. Well,
analyzing the data, day to
and
day.
she's like on me like, what are you doing? You shouldn't be out there.
Yeah.
What's going on? What if something happens to us? We're only here by ourselves. Our parents aren't here. We have no kids. There's no friends, no one to turn to. And she's just on me about it. I'm like,
Did you listen?
Cautious,
I did.
not pessimistic.
I question a lot of things, and I'm always looking for why this got to be it, why this got to be it. So that kind of is the detriment of me sometimes, where I'm like, I think I could do this, and then no one's giving me a real reason why I couldn't. No one. I was kind of like, no one could tell me what to do. And like I said, the emergency contact tells me you can't do that.
Right. So wait, but did you listen? Like, what did it take for her to actually convince you, or were you like, cool, Brandy said?
Just repeated like telling me. She just repeatedly tells me. She doesn't let it rest. So she, because she cares about me. So she's like, oh no, you can't do that. Yeah. So I listen.
Like we all went from like living our lives and doing our thing to, okay, now I'm just looking at you every day. So how was that for you all?
It's been good. It's been really good. Jamel is really busy, so she'll go into her hole, into the office, and she's in the office for 8-10 hours, and I can peep in and say hello, and we get our morning conversation, we talk for a little while. And then in the evening, it's just us.
Yeah, I guess we kind of had some precursor to quarantining and seeing each other every day, because our honeymoon was a month, right? So we were together every day, for a straight month on our honeymoon. Oh, wow. So like after the honeymoon, we were only like a couple months away before the pandemic started. But yeah, even though we, we're in this house together, and as he said, we're like usually split up, and so it's almost like a regular work day. Because I'm working, sometimes he has a bunch of conference calls, and then at the end of the night, it's like, oh, how was your day? Even though we've been in the same house, it's like we still have stories to share because we've had to individually be productive in our own fields. But I get asked a lot, I don't know if you do, about, oh, is he getting on your nerves, or you still like each other? It's like, a few months in, if I don't like him now, I'm like, dang, like, wow.
But you see things in people, you know what I mean? When you're like up under each other every day, there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So, it's a fair question.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen that before, though.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and we moved in, about 4 months before I proposed, and it was my first time ever living with a woman, so that took some adjustment. But now it's almost like I feel like we're spoiled. You know, once the quarantine is over, it's like even now, Jamel had to go to work today. I'm like, you gotta leave. Like, you sure? Call off. We've been at it for 5 months, in quarantine.
Yeah, I've talked to some of my friends who are single, and some of them are going through it because it's tough. Even, there's only so many Zoom calls you can do. There's only so many FaceTimes you can do. At some point, you want some human to human contact. And so I think about what my life might have looked like if I weren't married and we weren't together, and I'd be a mess on this quarantine. I mean, it would be ridiculous. So I'm just like, oh, thank you, babe, because you done saved me from being the worst on this. I'd be eating McDonald's every day. Like, it'd be crazy. I would, left to my own devices, like, who knows what that might look like. And I think, even though I'm sort of a little bit of a natural loner, I think even this would have been a lot to handle by myself.
And her speaking on needing that human-to-human contact, it let me understand what Brandy's been going through, because she works from home.
Yeah.
And she never gets to really see anybody. Now, and she moved out to LA because of me.
Yeah.
So now I didn't understand coming home why she always needed to talk right away about her day and what's going on. Like, give me 5 minutes, like you guys heard.
Yeah.
And now I get it, because now I'm at home and I have no one to interact with, no one to speak to. And I'm like, oh yeah, you need that human interaction, and I'm thankful.
You like all in her face now?
Yeah, but now, more so I get why she was in my face.
Yeah.
So I'm
I enjoy it,
so it's fun.
So they say that the first year is the hardest, right? Mostly because people are adjusting typically to not living together, right? So suddenly you're like in each other's space. But not only was it like first year newlywed life, especially for you guys are in year 3, right? But then with, the quarantine and the protests, everything that was happening, how do you feel like you guys have grown together? More than just like, oh, we've been around each other every day, but like, how do you guys feel like you've grown together as the result of everything that's been going on right now?
Well, in terms of the protests, our communication has become a lot stronger, not only with ourselves, but involving our family and talking about what things we can do, what we should be doing, and how we need to be a change. Like people say, you need to be the change you see in the world, and then you gotta ask yourself, what are you doing to make that change? So we've talked about like how, for my university, I need to start a book fund, because I remember when I was in college, I didn't have money for books, so I want to start a fund for them. And then we go to church off Figueroa, and some people call it the hood. We want to help those kids to see that you could do more, because when I was growing up as an 8-year-old, a guy would come to me and say, you're going to be great. And he didn't really know me, but he would, every year he'd say, you're going to be great. No one knows it, but you're going to be great. And as life goes on, little messages like that stick with you. So I feel as though we need to do that for the children. And we just come together as our family, and we just started talking about that a lot more. Instead of just thinking about it in our head, we're having open dialogue about it.
Right. Well, too, it's more so like, I think we had a conversation about purpose for our marriage, and it's not just okay, we're married and love and intimacy and making a family. It's more so like talking about, okay, how can we use our marriage and our interest and helping towards social justice and just finding purpose in that.
And even a platform like this, Black Love, people just need to see these kind of things and using our voice to speak on it, and seeing it's not easy all the time, but it's possible, and it's there for them to see and learn from.
Well, it's been it's been tough because being a journalist, I'm forced to process all this as a Black person and then go to talk about it as a journalist. So the majority of my time, the last, however many months, have been spent solely in this bubble of trauma, of like constantly having to talk about issues about police brutality, police violence, all the things that our people are facing, and on top of the disproportionate number of Black people who are contracting COVID-19 and dying from COVID-19. And so when we're together, it's got to be the opposite for me, where I need a little bit of a relief. I mean, certainly, we have talked a lot about the issues, and we've certainly talked about what our role is, but I need a mental break sometimes. And the part I didn't expect with everything that's happening is I didn't realize how much my workload was increased. I mean, it's a weird thing to say, because I know there's a lot of people who are out of work, a lot of people who are wondering where their next meal is coming from. So I'm certainly not complaining about it, but it's a lot. We've had talks about my level of mental exhaustion and all these things. And so that part, I've been grateful to be able to be with somebody that I can be vulnerable with and tell them, hey, I'm experiencing these things because of all the things I have to process and talk about and write about on a given basis. So the one thing that was really uplifting for us is he just had a milestone birthday. And so that allowed me to focus on something fun, something that would bring us together, bring his friends and family together and everything. And so that was a perfect, I don't want to use the word distraction because I don't want to be distracted from the problems, but it was just a different focal point for me, which was really good.
Yeah, and being the husband of a journalist, very popular journalist, especially under the circumstances with everything, everybody wants to talk to Jamel. It's like a totally different outlook that I have, because I look on Twitter, or we have a store and I get the emails. So all the different hate mail, and things like that, just for someone that's speaking up, telling the truth, and I see the different, reactions that she gets. And it's a lot of love as well. But I see everything, so at the end of the night, it's just you okay? And at the same time, it's you don't want to, bring it up and talk about it, because you just went through a whole day. So, it's just different ways, different angles that you have to go to cope with.
Well, sometimes I'll say to him, if I make an appearance on a MSNBC or some other network, I'll come back and I'll say, hey, babe, those emails might be tuned up because of what I just said. So you're going to get a few that's a little,
One of the things that somebody had to point out to me, it was actually Dondre Whitfield, who was in the last season. And we were talking about how sometimes, right, we're in our relationships. This is Black love, right? We are Black people. But Black women and Black men might be experiencing this differently, right? Not might be, but typically are. And we're not always, even though we love each other and we're supportive of one another in our relationships, we're not always saying to the other person, right now, I'm not okay, right? Because we kind of assume we're on the same page or on the same cycle of not okay, right? And I definitely want to hear from you guys, but first I want to ask, how do you all carry you professionally and all that comes your way, and then him as a Black man and how he might be experiencing it differently? How do you all carry that sort of duality? Do you both have space to talk about it?
Definitely. We have a lot of conversations about everything, but we had a conversation recently and I was telling Jamel just how I felt as a single Black man and how I might be more vulnerable with, let's say if I got pulled over by the police, it'd be totally different now since I'm married because, I have a wife that I want to get home to. But before, my behavior may have been a little bit more, I wouldn't say erratic, but, I might not comply or I might, it's a lot for a Black man going on out here, so just, I don't know how I will react, as a single man, but now that I'm married, it's I got to get home to my wife. So, I need to make smarter decisions.
Well, and it's not you're a reckless person. The thing that used to worry me when, because we were long distance before we moved to Los Angeles in October of 2018, is, Ian's a registered gun owner. And so, which I like to tell a lot of the people who send me hate mail, just so you know, this is a registered gun owner. So you can talk all that over there, but it might be something different. You run up on somebody. Right. But now with him being a registered gun owner, I would, we saw with Philando Castile, that didn't matter. And I used to live with that fear all the time. And I don't think I think I might have voiced it to you, but I never really told you how disconcerting it was for me to know that, because if you're carrying And, as we see, the police don't ask questions when it's us. Like, they're automatically reacting off fear. And even though everything's in check, everything's in line, and I know he knows how to handle himself, the imagining the most awful scenarios would still kind of, plague in my mind. But I'm definitely sensitive to the fact that seeing the video of a George Floyd, or as of recently, unfortunately, Jacob Blake, that's going to hit him differently, much like it hit me with Sandra Bland or what happened to Breonna Taylor, because all of us put ourselves in those shoes and say, as they say, therefore, but the grace of God go I, right? Because it could easily be you, and it's not even about a bad decision. It's like Black people are being gunned down and treated inhumanely just for literally existing. And that's a completely different bucket versus comply, not comply. That doesn't matter. It's just our humanity is literally at stake. So a lot of times, as I'm talking about these issues and thinking about this, it's like, I'm married to a Black man. That comes with a different weight, for a Black woman, because or at least I think about the number of Black women who, when their husband left the house, expecting him to come home. Right. And that didn't happen. Thinking about Breonna Taylor, she was engaged, right? And so when she went to sleep, she had no idea that she wouldn't wake up the next day. And so it's just, I don't know if women, if we're more prone to thinking of it that way, but I certainly think of what the consequences could be if somebody else looks at my husband and decides to fear him. Even when going around our neighborhood, you run around the neighborhood, all the time, and with you being a bigger guy, muscular, I'm like, I feel like we live in a safe neighborhood, but today you just never know.
Never know.
Like, somebody could see him jogging. Ahmaud Arbery, he was jogging. It's like he runs every day. So it's hard for me not to think about what these scenarios mean from that standpoint.
Yeah. And one of the beautiful things about my wife is she lets me debrief. As a Black man, she lets me talk about things that I might be thinking about or what might be going on or how it affects me without judging or saying. I think when this first happened, I was kind of upset because in 2013, I was so marching, everything. I'm writing poetry. I'm just trying to do everything I can. And then I see now, I'm like, now everybody cares about it. And she lets me know, that upset me. I'm like, man, why is it now everyone cares? But she gave me the space to just talk it out and just think, oh, everybody doesn't come along for the ride at the same time. Yeah. And I think Dulé said that on the episode where everyone has their own journey and their own timing where they pick up a cross and they bear it and they walk with you. You just gotta stay there and you just gotta understand that. And I love her for that. And we talk about how a lot of single Black men don't have a woman or someone a lot of Black men don't have someone they can speak to honestly about everything. That's why you might have that pent up energy, that pent up where I'm gonna be a little more aggressive because I keep everything inside. Everything's supposed to be, I'm supposed to be strong, I'm supposed to be powerful. I can't be touched. And then it all comes out and it might end your life. Yeah. So.
And I think he's been really aware, because something I've talked about in public spaces is for Black women, not just absorbing what this experience is like for Black men, but we need to be really honest about where we are mentally and the space we need for ourselves. Because the one thing that is very apparent is that for a lot of us, there's this trope of the strong Black woman. It's great, it's meant to be a compliment, but it's also debilitating at the same time, where we get to thinking that we have no space to be vulnerable, that we have no space to share some of the things that we are going through that are unique to Black women. And so he has been just so amazing about saying, let's talk about it, because I think you guys were discussing about how you want to talk about it right there, right? You're ready to go. He does have to pull it out of me a little bit more, and I have to give myself permission to express what I'm feeling with him about not just things happening in the world, but anything that may bother me, and that's taken some time, because I realize sometimes it's really pulling meat from a bear,
Also, when you got married, you were grown, like you said. You had spent all this time, taking care of yourself. So it can be harder to really open up, even when you chose him and you said, I do, So if you guys had to say one reason or two reasons why you're going to make it 60, 70, 80 more years, you know, what would you say that is for each of you?
I could let you go first.
I mean, shit that you're like,
I can let you go.
Oh, them or me?
No, you.
I mean, we've had friendship, we've had long distance, we've had breakups, we've had like crazy times. I just feel like he always tells me, I know you, and I feel like I know you. So it's like, for real, like if we're dealing with something, then it's like, I know we can get through it because I've seen us get through it. So it would just have to be something really crazy, like you would have to do.
Like, not to get too deep, because it's just simple for me. When I was 17, I started losing faith in God because of things that was going on with my family, my little sister, and she saved me through that, letting me know that faith in God is so strong, anything can happen. So now, the reason I'm so optimistic is because I've seen his work. And that's the one reason that we're gonna last, is because God has a hand in our marriage. And I see it every day. Whenever I doubt, before we get married, I didn't have the money to take care of her. I thought, the minute we get married, God showed out. He showed out in a major way. And I'm so thankful. That's what I'm saying, we're blessed. And that's the one reason why we're gonna make it, is because God's in our marriage.
Yeah. I'm gonna let you go first.
I thought it was her turn. Okay, we can skip around. I think it's the love. I mean, I don't think it's the love. You know, the love is gonna make us last. And I know Jamel's heart and she knows mine, and we communicate. And I'm a little bit more, like you said, Jamel Hill is unbothered for real. Like, sometimes I have to pull it out, but you know, I always express how I feel. And in turn, I think that helps her, you know, tell me how she feels. And we talk it out. You know, it's nothing that we can't discuss, like nothing, you know, nothing. I thought she was cheating on me, like, when she was playing at my birthday party. I was like, something sneaky is going on.
It was a surprise party. You had to clean that up.
But the love would have brought us through it.
Well, I'm thinking about the couple that you have, the couple that was in the first episode, and when she said, you know, I'm never leaving this woman, right?
Sarouj and Aisha.
Sarouj and Aisha.
Yeah.
So I feel the same way. It's like, there's not a circumstance, a scenario, nothing I could really contemplate that's gonna make me leave him. And I think because I know his level of commitment matches mine, that's only going to, I'm sure we're gonna hit some tough times, and it's gonna be difficult. There may be times when we may not like each other very much, but as you said, the love is always gonna be the underbelly and the foundation of our relationship. And not love in the way that romance is a part of it, but not in that like, oh, butterflies in my stomach love, but honestly loving someone unconditionally. You know, this is what being married to you has definitely taught me about what that word actually means through everything. And so the fact that I think both of us can't imagine life without each other. There's no way I can do better than this. So I've outkicked my covers and it's not happening. So to the idea of like being out there and thinking there was someone better than you is just preposterous to me. So there's a lot of elements, I think, that reasons why I think that we will make it. But, you know, beyond the love and commitment is the trust. It's like, I trust that he's always going to do right by me. And he's always going to be by my side. And I'm sure he better feel the same. So
I do. I agree with everything you said.
It's just speaking those kind of words, because I've learned that words really are powerful, man.
Yeah.
Things you say,
Yeah.
like I've told her when I was 16, I was gonna marry her. And I tell her, look at today. We're
married.
married.
Into existence.
And I thought that was
I started off telling her I'm gonna have your phone number. now look at us. We're professing our love to the world. And I said, look at you right here with me. You love me.
I see you giving some fellas some unrealistic dreams right now. They'll be out there like, so I said to Beyonce.
But you got to do the work.
You got to put the work.
You got to do the work. It ain't
You got to
just
be
gonna happen.
consistent
That
too.
work.
You were really consistent
Exactly. So
Through
that's
high school,
through college.
Yes.
I'm talking
I'm
about
like-
I learned how to write poetry because of her.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's like the first poem was that "You Are the One." And I'm 15. You are the one. You're the one that makes me smile as I turn the corner and the lockers hit my eye. I'm telling you, I went in on everything.
Wait, how much more do you know of this poem?
You think I had remember I sent you a whole PowerPoint of poems? This woman had me singing on the phone, and I cannot sing. Like I'm in college. Like, I ain't even gonna do it because I can't. I'm telling you, I was singing. And you will be mine.
Oh my
God. I told you, I was like, but she was like, that sounds good. So it all worked out, and I just kept speaking. I told her, we're gonna be married, we're gonna do this. I told her we're gonna move to LA, I'm gonna be an actor. And I told you, look at our life. As we speak it and as we work, it all happens. So whenever we start speaking negative, I'm like, let's draw that back.
Yeah.
Stay in the positive lane because it's gonna work.
Where's my poetry? I'm just.
I wish I met you in high school. You're 20 years in right now.
All right, y'all. I appreciate you so much for sharing. This is just honest. I mean, especially with the poetry. You kind of just wrapped it up for me. But to you all and your newlywed status, that will certainly last for decades and decades. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And thank you all for joining us for episode 2 of After Love, the official Black Love After Show.